Sports Like Mike. Thanks for listening in. So yesterday, day 8, we explored what right looks like. You also got to look at your strengths, which lead to feelings of self-assurance from appreciation of one's own abilities or qualities, commonly referred to as confidence. Today, we're going to expand on that by exploring a few patterns in your thinking. What I'd like you to keep in mind is you can always control how you react to stress and anxiety, and this is a skill. It's a skill that must be practiced. You control what you think, what you say, and ultimately what you do. You make these small changes. So first, and from day 5, understand that your thoughts affect your performance and look for those patterns. Second, identify the patterns in your thinking. And third, make small changes to control what you can control. Think with purpose, have productive thoughts, and make those thoughts possibility-based, and you will end up reducing your stress and save the precious energy reserves that you have on a daily basis, which is day 11. But this will take focused practice, deliberate practice, and a bit of effort for you in the beginning. Remember, confidence is simply an internal belief, and you have a choice as to what you believe. All right, let's back off a bit and cover a bit of foundational theory. The theory of self-efficacy was actually coined by a guy with the name of Albert Bandura. He was an early cognitive psychologist and contributed to many fields within psychology. But this theory it has been and still is very influential in psychology today. So around 1995, Bandura created the theory of self-efficacy belief, which is the belief in one's capabilities to organize and execute the courses of action required to manage prospective situations. There are many reasons for people to believe in themselves and feel a sense of self-control. The belief that one can control stressful events is related to emotional well-being, successful coping, health behaviors, better performance on cognitive tasks, and overall health and well-being. I want you to learn how to change your thought patterns, your thinking, your mindset to approach difficult tasks as challenges, to be mastered rather than to just see just your limitations. I want you to be able to set challenging goals within deliberate practice techniques and learn how to maintain strong commitment, that iron will for discipline, how to shift your attention or your focus on effort and embracing the process of getting better for performance, at the same time while holding yourself accountable to accomplish whatever goals and objectives you have set up within your deliberate practice for that particular day or moment. Yeah, a lot of little mini lessons within here. So controlling the controllables is part of learning how to sustain your efforts in the face of failure. Recognize that most failure is simply due to insufficient effort or maybe a deficiency in knowledge or the skills you're trying to ultimately learn. If you want to be good enough, if you want these things bad enough, then you can achieve them. And belief is one of the best areas to start. So Bandura has these 4 sources of confidence, or 4 ways of developing self-efficacy beliefs. The first, performance accomplishment. So the experience of mastery, it can influence your perspective on your abilities. Successful experiences lead to greater feelings of self-efficacy. However, failing to deal with a task or challenge can also undermine and weaken self-efficacy, or remember, belief. The second would be vicarious experience. Observing someone else perform a task or handle a situation can help you to perform the same task. If you succeed in performing a task, you are likely to think that you will be able to succeed as well. That is assuming that task isn't too difficult. Watching somebody go create an ultra marathon when you don't like running 1 or 3 miles is probably not something you should put your sights on unless you really, really, really want it. So observing people who are similar within yourself, observing them succeed will increase your beliefs that you can master a similar activity. However, this is one that I want people to be wary of, because I'm not talking about comparing yourself to others. I'm talking about, and Bandura actually is talking about, the ability to be able to live through somebody else's experience. If they did it, I can do it too. One of the best examples of this is the 4-minute mile. For decades and for years, people pursued the skill, I guess, the feat of being able to run a mile in sub 4 minutes. And it, over years, I believe Chariots of Fire was a movie that was made about this. People failed and failed miserably. But through belief, they kept embracing that failure and getting closer and closer and closer. So eventually, somebody, I believe it was Roger Bannister, broke that 4-minute mile. What happened was once that mental barrier was broken, once that belief was actually achieved, it became a little bit more real for individuals. And suddenly within the next year, 6 people ended up breaking the 4-minute mile, and now it's a standard that gets broken on a regular basis. So while I'd say that the belief was there, or the dream was there, the actual belief wasn't there. And I see this in a lot of teams where they have the dream of achieving certain aspects of success, a championship, going to the NCAA tournament for the first time, etc. That real, true, deep down, inherent belief with every fiber of your being isn't there, and often it isn't there because of a fear of failure. So the third aspect, or ways to develop self-efficacy or sources of confidence, would be verbal persuasion. When other people encourage and convince you to perform a task, you tend to believe that you are more capable of performing that task. This is becoming a lot more common with today's athlete. And we're talking about constructive feedback. This is important in maintaining a sense of efficacy, as it may help overcome the self-doubt. So sometimes a good coach, a mentor, or even a teammate can help push you when the doubt's starting to creep in. While this is a valuable aspect of confidence in the short term, leaving your confidence up to someone else is never a good idea. So within day 10, we're actually going to tap into core values, your brand, your mindset, and your beliefs. We'll learn a little bit more about why and how this leads to intrinsic motivation, and intrinsic motivation is actually more sustainable over time. And it's also something that you have control, and today is all about controlling your controllables. All right, so Bandura's fourth source of confidence, or ways to develop your self-efficacy beliefs, is the physiological states. So the mood, the emotion, the physical reaction, stress levels that may influence how you feel about your own personal abilities. What I want you to do is remember this from the TAP model that we talked about in day 5. How thoughts affect your performance. So your thoughts lead to responses, both emotional and physiological. And if you're extremely nervous, for example, you may begin to have that self-doubt creep in, and this develops some weak sense of self-efficacy, and that's not what we want. Everybody has doubt. It's going to creep in. We want to teach you the skill to be able to accept that and move along and learn how to control your thoughts in a more effective manner. So if you're confident and you feel no anxiety or nervous at all, you may actually experience a sense of excitement that fosters a great sense of self-efficacy, but this could also lead to lower activation levels, which we've discussed in a previous day's session as well. You need to find out where that activation sweet spot is for you as an individual, and it is different for everybody. So it is the way that you choose to interpret and evaluate events and situations and emotional states that is important for how you develop self-efficacy beliefs. So just to recap, go back and look at this model. So you can see the gray box with the thoughts. You have an event, these thoughts creep into your head, or they fly into your head, and they're all based on how you choose to interpret or perceive a situation. They are backed by your values, your attitudes, your beliefs, etc. But which thoughts you choose to pay attention to lead to that result in your performance, the blue box on the bottom. Those are the responses. So it is also called a thought performance interaction, a thought performance reaction. So within the performance, it leads to some kind of emotional response or a physiological response. So again, I want you to keep in mind that specifically the thoughts, your interpretation or perception of the thoughts, which ones you choose to pay attention to, is going to dictate whether you're going to have a good or a bad performance. So with this model, hopefully it's all starting to come together for you now, and you are beginning to clearly understand that you are in control of you and which thoughts you choose to pay attention to. I understand that working through some of these things can feel like a step backwards. It might seem like a pain in the rear to you. It may even seem a little stupid. However, I promise you a little bit of self-awareness, and you roll up your sleeves and do a little bit of dirty work, and it will pay huge dividends for you in the long haul. Seriously, have you never experienced self-doubt? Yeah, you're human. Of course you have. Some of you, anxiety may take over your mind, and you may have these ruminating thoughts, and you worry on a constant basis, which can lead to chronic levels of stress, which can be very detrimental to your overall well-being, reduce your immune system, and definitely affect your performance. So if you're tired of being stressed and you're tired of being exhausted from stress and or anxiety or the doubt, then this is one of a handful of things that can help you lead to enhanced confidence and more self-efficacy or belief. So again, I want to repeat that doubt and confidence lapses hit every single one of us. From the world-class and Olympic level athletes we work with, professional athletes, to the world's finest warriors in the world, every single one of them has at some point experienced moments of self-doubt. The difference is that they have systems in place, routines in place, and have done some of the dirty work to be able to practice the skills so that they can remove the doubt when it does indeed creep in. So let's put a little effort in now and work on these skills so that you can be in the mental shape before you need them, and it's going to be too late. So let's, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, right? So let's start training that brain. So deliberately focusing on your mind, or your mind on certain thoughts and certain memories, can actually create these higher levels of energy, optimism, and enthusiasm. And again, your thoughts affect your performance. Thus, choosing which thoughts to pay attention to is actually going to enhance your performance. So look, you're going to need both. You need to reflect on your weaknesses, which will build your competence, your technical skills, your tactical knowledge, and even your physical strength and endurance. But we want you to learn how to embrace failure and grow through struggles, which is part of what Carol Dweck from Stanford calls a growth mindset. However, that is for practice and training. So focusing on those weaknesses, reflecting on those weaknesses, builds your confidence, allows you to improve on the areas that you need to improve on, and that is for practice. There is a a time and a place for that. That's just not what our focus is going to be on for the most part today. So reflecting on your strength in a pre-performance routine can actually help build up your confidence. So you need both of these aspects. You need to be able to reflect on the weaknesses, reflect on the strengths. So day 9, if you remember, was a venue for you to be able to list your strengths. And today is all about which of those things are actually in your control, especially when it comes to where your attention goes, whether it's things outside of your control or things you can control. So the only thing you control is, yep, you guessed it, is you. The rest, honestly, is just an energy drain. So let's take a look at these 2 worksheets I've got up on the screen. So you can see the first one. There are things that are in your control and out of your control. You're going to literally just draw a circle on a piece of paper, pick a experience. So you can go back to the day 5 TAP worksheets if you want, using either your best or your worst experiences, and dig into the patterns of thinking that you have a little bit deeper. But on a regular basis, in practice or in matches, where do your thoughts go? Are you thinking about other people? And I don't mean the people that you're defending, but are other people creeping into your head and taking you off of your game? So it could be somebody that's marking you, or it could be somebody that you are defending. Are you listening to obnoxious fans, whether they're yours or the other teams? And same thing that goes with parents. Are you listening or paying too much attention to bad calls? Look, we all think referees make bad calls, but they're not worth our attention. We've got to just roll with it. We can't control it. We move on, focus on what we can control, which is ourselves. We control our attitudes, the effort that we're going to give, and definitely our behaviors, and they're displayed in our actions. additional venues, or of course, as you can see there, weather, environment, etc. So I want you to use that worksheet, and you take a couple of seconds reflecting on events, and over time, it should not take you that long. You're going to start to see patterns of where your attention is distracted and where your thought patterns go, and then you can practice the routines, the refocus routines, which we covered in day 4. And they're highly beneficial in retraining your brain to actually think effectively, but we want them to be able to switch your focus back from what you can control to what you actually can control. And the first step of that is rolling up your sleeves and doing a little bit of work, maybe 90 seconds or 120 seconds of work, and identifying where your attention goes with things that you ultimately can't control. You'll see that the outside of that box on the piece of paper fills up pretty doggone quickly. So mantras have a place and a time, and everybody has a level of belief in mantras, but here are some rules of thought, some phrases, some sayings, some power statements, some mantras, whatever you want to call them, that I want you to keep in mind. The first thing is that you control you. Everything else is just a waste of your energy and your focus. If you are feeling a lot of doubt and your attention is placed on the wrong things, then say these things to yourself, or print this up somewhere, or post this up somewhere in your room, and literally say it to yourself out loud. I control my confidence. I control my attitude. I control my effort. And ultimately, I control my happiness. Once you understand that all of those things are direct result of your choices, you're going to lead a happier and a healthier life. And again, keep in mind, it may take 21 days for this kind of a thing to take place, maybe a little bit longer depending on the severity of your ineffective thinking. But don't worry, following this program, it's going to take you in the right direction for being able to have more effective thought processes and understanding that you control you if, and only if, you learn to, and again I'm holding up air quotes, control your thoughts. Want to know more or find worksheets for this exercise and many, many more? Check us out on Facebook at Sports Psych Mike or at www.p3perf.com. Thanks for your time today, and I look forward to seeing you around next time.